Thank you for coming to the Central Alberta Real Estate Investor Network. We're very glad to have you at our event, Fortune and Foreclosure. So if you guys want to come and grab a seat,
We are so excited that you're all here today. Like Bryce said, this event is called Fortune and Foreclosures. So when Bryce told me that it's called Fortune and Foreclosures, I immediately assumed that it was going to be like a game show. I figured that NBC did not pick up this game show, and so we are going to do a live game show right in ATB's lobby. Just give me one moment. Now, this game show is brought to you by ChatGPT. It fully created all this, so I have no clue how accurate this is going to be. So don't judge us based off that. But how this is going to work is I'm going to read out the scenario, and you're going to shout out whether it's going to be a fortune or foreclosure. The points don't really matter, but we're going to keep tally of points anyways. So, the booming tech hub residential flip. A single family purchased at auction in a rapidly gentrifying urban neighborhood. The property, oh no. The property needs extensive renovations. A major tech company just announced a new campus opening nearby, driving up housing demand. Is that going to be a fortune or is it going to be a foreclosure? Fortune? Let's find out. Correct, it was a fortune. Okay, let's find out the next deal. The rural rental development, a 10-unit apartment building in a small rural town, primarily relying on a single large manufacturing plant for its local economy. Just after purchase, the plant announces plans for a 50% workforce reduction over the next 12 months. Foreclosure? Let's find out. Correct, it was a foreclosure. I don't know if I should be cheering for foreclosure. I feel bad about that. But we're going to hit one more, okay? This is for all the marbles. The historic downtown commercial revitalization. An old vacant commercial building in a revitalizing downtown core purchased at a very low price. The plan is to convert into a mixed-use space with ground floor retail and apartments above. The city offers tax incentives for a heritage revitalization. Oh, I'm hearing mix. Who put up your hand if it's a fortune? Okay. We're talking an imaginary place. Foreclosure, put up your hand. Okay. I'm going to do fortune. It was fortune. Yes, it says a definite fortune. The city's revitalization efforts and tax incentives combined with growing interests from local businesses and residents wanting to live downtown. So it's going to be a fortune. So we are not actually bringing you a new game show. We actually have some exciting things coming up. I know. But we actually have a lot of fun planned. So Bryce, what should we know first?
Well, if you've been to our events before and you've gained value from them, can I ask you something? Can you take a picture at some point during the event and post it? Because it just spreads our reach, which allows us to keep the events free. So I'd appreciate that.
Yes. And if you want to up your picture quality, we actually have Pick Boss that's set up around the corner right past the food where you can go and get a picture. We have Dan Knorr here, who's the owner of Pick Boss. Dan, give it a little wave. So if you have a corporate party coming up, if you have a wedding, if you have a bar mitzvah, whatever it might be, talk to Dan to get your picture set up for that.
And we also have a book sale going on. So it's $3 per book. We were donated 1,000 real estate books, self-development, business books, $3 a book. All the proceeds go towards building a community indoor play center for children in Red Deer.
Yes, so it's going to be great. We're going to get into the lineup, but I have a couple seats. Like I have one here, two there, a couple there. So if you need seats, Dion's pointing to one right beside him. He wants someone to come sit beside him. So if you need a seat, feel free to grab one of those seats. But we have a great lineup of speakers that I'm really excited about. And they're going to be talking all about how do we pursue that journey of wealth. And what does that look like in the ever-changing market? As you know, we have been through the ups and downs and all around us. And so I'm really excited to be able to unpack some of those and have a few of our guests go through their in-depth knowledge that they have. Our very first guest is actually Calvin Hexter. So he is from the Edmonton, Alberta real estate market. He's the founder of Calvin Realty, an investor-focused, top-producing real estate team based in Edmonton. He'll be here to share his unique vision for the rest of the province. Plus, Calvin is hosting the largest real estate event in Alberta, 𝐅𝐨𝐿, on September 6th and 7th that you do not want to miss. But without further ado, let's bring up Calvin. Yeah, this one has a bit more.
I could use both.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. That'd be weird. Thanks for the great introduction, Andrew. That was awesome. This is my first time at the event, and it's great to see so many faces here that are eager to learn. And my goal today is to deliver at least a couple golden nuggets so you can each walk away with value. And if I do more than that, then I'm expecting the loudest cheer at the end of this. Does that sound good? I want to have a good idea of who's here today. So can everybody stand up for me? Do you guys mind? And am I loud enough? Can everybody hear me in the back too? Or do I need to scream? Okay. There we go. You can hear me okay? Okay, sounds good. So I want you to sit down if you've been investing longer than 5 years in real estate. Okay. If you've been investing longer than 3 years, can you sit down? Okay. If this is your very first year of getting into real estate investing, please stay standing. So if you're brand new into real estate investing, continue standing. Can everybody seated give them a big round of applause for being here today? This is the room you want to be in. It took me 5 years to get into a room like this, and the connections you're going to make, the information you're going to gather, and the ability to gain clarity in the next step in your real estate journey are going to be in rooms like today. So thank you guys. Congratulations for being here. I think it's way better to be here than watching Netflix at home or something, right? This is way more entertaining. So thank you guys so much. So as mentioned, my name is Calvin. I own the team Calvin Realty. I also have Amy and 𝐷𝐿 here as well. So we can take a look at the back. So if you guys have any questions about the Edmonton market, we can talk to 𝐷𝐿 or Amy right over to your right. A little bit about me, and I love to know your story as well. So at the end of my talk, if you want to come up and say hi, please do. I love to hear about how you got into real estate. My journey started off when I was 3 years old. And I remember when I was 3 years old, I asked my mom, hey, can we go to Disneyland one year? And she said, yes, but not until the age of 10 because you're not going to remember it. So then every single year I was like, okay, I'm 1 year closer, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I turned 10, and do you think I went to Disneyland? No, I didn't go to Disneyland until I was 33, and I had to pay for my own ticket. And I love my mom, I love my dad. I come from a really good family, but financially we weren't in a position that allowed us to go on much for vacations. And so I knew early on in my life I wanted to be able to offer more opportunities to my kids, whether it was like paying for their college, paying for some travel, just giving them a good head start in life. And so I started doing like stock trading. Does anybody do like stocks or Bitcoin or anything like that here? Maybe a couple of hands. Okay, so good point. I suck at stocks. I lost so much money when my friend told me, invest in Aurora. When it goes public, you're going to be rich. So I was thinking of I was thinking of a quote, and it was like, I can fail 99% of the times, but if I hit it good once, I'll be really good. Anyways, I didn't hit at all. I lost 100% of the time. And I was in this position, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do because I know my 9-to-5 job is never going to put me in a financial position to be successful. And so I was really looking for opportunities. And at that point, I was just a sponge. Every YouTube video that come up, and it was like making money. I'm like, could I do that? Could I do that? No. And then I had my friend call me up one day. His name is Jaden. And he was living in a community in Edmonton called Sherbrooke. And he said, hey, Calvin, guess what I just did? He's like, I just bought my neighbor's house. And at that point, I think I was 21. And I was like, oh, cool. Is that like a frat house? Like, are we going to do like a frat thing on the weekends? And then you get to live in your house and we party in this house on the weekend. I wasn't much of a partier, but that's where my head went. And he's like, no, I'm going to rent it out for $2,300 a month, and all expenses in is about $1,800, meaning I'm going to get $500 extra in my pocket every single month. And at that point, I was like, light bulb. I was like, I might be able to use real estate as a vehicle. I like the tangible side of things where I can drive by the asset. I have more control. When money leaves my account in stocks, it's like I don't know where it's going. And when it comes in, I don't know who gifted it to me. But I do know that the tenants are going to be providing me the cash flow. So at that point, I started my real estate career, and I made some of the worst mistakes in real estate. And I would love to compare mistakes that I've made in real estate in my journey versus any mistakes you've made. And if you ever really want to feel, when you ever get a speeding ticket and then you call your friend that tends to get more speeding tickets and you say, hey, John, I got a speeding ticket again. He's like, haha, I got 2 earlier this week. You suddenly feel better because he has a much, much worse. So when it came to real estate investing, if you guys have any bad stories, I love to share them because I did some of the worst burrs. You know, when you hear about how to do proper burrs, I did the worst burr imaginable. I did everything the opposite of what you should do. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't know what a property manager was, but I did know that I wanted to achieve this goal and I wanted to hit some kind of financial ability to give back. And my goal was more legacy to my children and so on. So I continued down the real estate path. I learned from my mistakes and I continued to grow to the point where I was like, hey, I can actually help others make less mistakes than me. I should get my real estate license. And immediately my focus was investment real estate. And then I went ahead and we started a team and I started to grow with agents like Amy, Karina, and that were like-minded that want to make a big impact. And that's ultimately why we're here today. Kind of a fun story, hey? Yeah, it's always fun to talk about failures. I got lots of them. The Edmonton market. So let's talk about Edmonton, what's happening here. I do understand that Red Deer tends to be, a later, almost kind of like the shadow of Edmonton in some cases, where if Edmonton moves in a direction, not shadow, what's a better word? Amanda, what's a better word? Not a shadow. Not a shadow. What? I don't know. What would you say?
Encore?
Okay, encore. Is that better? Okay. I don't mean a shadow. I mean, I wasn't. Anyways, not a shadow. But I know what happens in Edmonton. We tend to see Red Deer happen a little bit later on. So, Edmonton is, I would say, all of Alberta. There's a lot of things that are happening in Alberta right now, and I know that in my presentation, I'm really tight for time, so I'm going to speed through some of these slides that are going to be more important for you. We're very affordable. If you guys have any friends in Vancouver and Toronto, they can't believe how affordable our prices are. Realtors in Calgary can't believe how affordable Edmonton prices are. I'm sure that Calgary realtors can't even believe how affordable Red Deer prices are. And how close is Calgary? Like a damn hour and a half, right? It's impressive when you start talking about it. And the cash flow opportunities. True or false? Cash flow opportunities are greater in Red Deer than they are in Calgary as a whole.
Yes.
Nice and loud.
Yes.
Heck yes. What we're seeing right now is last year we saw some of the highest rental prices than we've ever seen historically in Edmonton. We saw some of the highest prices. So when it comes to the commercial investments, I was having a conversation earlier, when rent prices go up, building prices go up. So multifamily has been exchanging hands. People are paying more for it because we're seeing some amazing rent prices. Cash flow is fantastic right now, especially with lowering interest rates. We went from 7.3 in vacancy in 2021 to 3.1%, which we've shared collectively between 2024 and 2025. We actually clocked in at a lower vacancy rate than Calgary this year, which is great. Their rent prices are higher, but we do see lower vacancy, which is fantastic. You can see historically, and if anybody wants my slides, just message me. I'm happy to send them to you guys afterwards. I know I'm going quick. Market stability. We saw some really good price increases. If you bought a townhouse in 2023 that was worth on average, say $180,000 and you sold it last year, we were seeing like prices of like $250,000, $260,000. That's some pretty wicked natural appreciation. And it wasn't just the townhouses, it was the half duplexes, it was the single family detached homes. There's been a lot of appreciation that we've been seeing. We went from the lowest inventory count of 1.9 months of inventory to where we're at right now is 2.5 months of inventory. I want you guys to understand what that means. It's kind of like when you look at the weather, like I think tomorrow's supposed to be a sunny day in Red Deer. So naturally when it's a sunny day, you're like, okay, well maybe I can wear something a little bit lighter. I don't have to wear jeans unless I'm coming to the Central Alberta investor event, which I should wear jeans and not shorts. I was tempted to wear shorts. But when it comes to average days on market and months of inventory, what does it mean when we're at 1.9 months versus 2.5 months? So you're still in a seller's market, but it sells faster, right? The turnover rate. So meaning that if we weren't to replenish our stock of houses at all, it would take 2.5 months until there's nothing left, okay? Nothing left at all. So I mean, that's pretty quick. Yeah. So months of inventory is a really important number you want to pay attention to in any market that you're looking at. The higher months of inventory can mean that it's a buyer's market, And then there's a balanced market, and that tends to feather around 3.5 to 4.5 months. And then buyer's markets tend to be around 5 months. We're in a seller's market right now because we're at 2.5 months of inventory. The lowest amount of inventory we've seen ever in Edmonton was 1.9, meaning more multiple offers, meaning competitiveness, meaning urgency to the purchase. And now what's happening in the market, we go from 1.9 months of inventory to 2.5 months of inventory. So days on market is increasing. Think of it this way. You guys have driven on the highway. Some of you have driven on the highway to get here today. When you go from 120 kilometers an hour to 100 kilometers an hour, does it feel like you're going like 50 or 60? It does. So what do you think sellers are feeling right now? They're feeling like they're going slow and they're getting desperate, right? So anytime you start to see a drop in a contraction in a market, you're gonna find more opportunities for creative financing, better deals. But in addition to that, if you couple that up and you start to see the seasonal changes, because what happens when we start to get into Q4? Do you see more or less primary home buyers? You see less of them, so you're gonna see less competition. Sellers are squirming right now, especially for the vacant properties, and a lot of them are exercising the idea of pulling their property off the market and putting it back next year. This time is the best time you're gonna find deals all year, right now, without question. You like VTBs, you like agreement for sales, this is the time to start asking, whether it's residential or commercial. Population increases. We know that 2024 for Alberta hit some records. 2025 we haven't hit any records, but I can tell you that. Do you guys think we're up in Alberta? There was only, I think it was 4 provinces that saw an increase in population and net population for 2025. Do you guys think Alberta was one of them? Yes. We were. Yeah. And you guys are probably seeing it, right? You might see more competition, more housing starts, everything else like that. So that's good. I mean, that's a good thing. You guys, if you're buying real estate to hold it, you're rental housing providers. You're actually providing a solution. When you take a home, subdivide it into a legal basement suite, you've now offered the opportunity for 2 families to live where normally there would just be 1. You're creating opportunities, right? You're giving back. So I thought it was pretty cool. Look at Alberta. Green mean good, blue not as good. So net migration by type, I don't know if you can see this, but international, interprovincial, and total migration. Again, I can send you guys slides afterwards. We're gonna fast track this a little bit. So when it comes to the population, we know that there's gonna be some consistency and growth in the population. You should also know what type of infrastructure the city you plan to invest in has in its itinerary. So if you go into the City of Edmonton site, and I'm sure there's some resources that you guys can get here from Bryce, these nodes, if you guys see the really large red dots here, these are the areas that the City of Edmonton's putting a lot of money in for densification. You want to pay attention to that, okay? Some of the major infrastructure developments that are happening in Edmonton right now to be able to handle the increase in population. The goal of Edmonton is to be above 2 million shortly after the year of 2030. Okay, so they're looking at a lot of fast growth. There's also a lot of density that's happening in the inner city. You may have heard of like the 15-minute city, where you're essentially taking in a house that doesn't have much life left, that's on a reasonable sized lot, and instead of it being 1 family that's living there, now there's 8. So infill developments are very, very heavy in the city right now, and they're allowing more of that density near those nodes, right? And if you want consistency in your lower vacancy numbers, I would, again, pay really attention to the nodes and where the city's spending a lot of the money. And yes, it sucks during construction, but once it's completed, if there's a higher demand to live in that area, you will see appreciation because now more people want to get there, whether it's transit, whether it's hospitals, whatever it is. So pay attention to this stuff. Blatchford development used to be our old municipal airport. It's 560 acres that's now being redeveloped into like living space, and that's right in the middle of Edmonton. It's going to hold 30,000 residents. I mean, that's massive. Now, this development's obviously going to take a long, long time, but it's going to be almost like a second downtown to us. We have the ICE district, and then we have a bunch of other infrastructure initiatives as well. So when you are investing in a city, if you live in the city, if you're investing in another city, always understand what type of infrastructure is coming up so you can understand, are they ramping up for a larger population? Are they just coasting? What's going on? Because it will affect your investment. So what am I expecting for 2026? I'm expecting that we're probably going to see a lot more stabilization. I don't think we're going to see the same prices that we saw in 2024. where we saw a big record. I think we're going to maintain reasonable rent prices, which are really, really strong in comparison to anything in the history that we've been seeing. Housing starts are going to stay consistent. I do see them tightening up the rules when it comes to infill development, because already right now there's issues when it comes to taking one house and now converting it from one family to 8. I mean, naturally, what are you going to have? Parking issues, garbage issues, all those things, especially on the inner lots. So those are things that we're seeing right now. So I do think it's going to be harder to densify and create the 15-minute city, but there's still a lot of opportunities. Vacancy, I think, is going to stay low. I think multifamily prices are going to stay a little bit higher because of the rents we're able to achieve. I think if you buy a house that is better than your neighbor, you're not going to have any issues with vacancy, right? And when the market's really good, you always want to make sure that you have a little bit of a stress test on your property. Don't just buy anything right now, because if the market changes and vacancy rates go up, you need to make sure that your property is the one, or your unit's the one that's getting rented. Because right now, everyone can be winners. Anybody can be successful. Like Patrick Francie likes to say, everyone can be a genius. But it's when times change, that's where most investors lose their portfolio. So make sure that you're doing a bit of a stress test on that property right now. Being set up with the right people, property management, real estate, realtor, mortgage broker, lawyer will help identify maybe some of your blind spots that you may not be seeing. We're going to skip that. Let's talk about Edmonton a little bit. Have you guys ever heard of the desirability map, like A, B, C, D areas? It's a really good way to understand which areas you should be investing in. So let's go with, can you write these down for me? So if you were to put these 4 in order, okay, so the first one you're going to write down is tenant profile, okay? And anybody else want to do this exercise, you can, okay? So if you want to buy in a city, I recommend using these 4 variables, putting them in order from most important to least important. That'll help me identify whether you should be in an A, B, C, or D area. Okay, this works for every city. Vacancy, cash flow, and appreciation. Shirley, thank you for writing fast too. I appreciate you. I only have so much time with this presentation, and I wanted to throw this in here. If you were to put those in order from most important to least important, there's no right or wrong answers. What would you say is your number 1? Number 1 and number 2, and I can work with the rest. Vacancy and appreciation are number 1? Number 1, number 2? Okay, so if you want the lowest amount of vacancy, I want to hear it from you guys. Where do you think you'd want to shop? A areas, right? Want to shop in the A areas. Why? Because they're the highest demand areas. You can also do short-term rentals here. Anything around the university, you can rent out by the room. So anything for lowest vacancy, if that's what's propelling your purchase and what you want as a result, I'd be buying in either an A or a B area. Now, Shirley, your second goal was appreciation. And if we're not looking at forced appreciation, which you can do on almost any property as long as there's a deficit to it, and we're looking for natural appreciation, buy near infrastructure that's yet to be completed, but not too close. That's going to create crime or a high walk score on your residential property. If it's commercial, it's great. If it's residential, it's not. You want to be between like 800 and 1,200 meters of that infrastructure. Could be like LRT, hospitals, that kind of stuff. Graveyards, is it good to be near a graveyard? I don't know, it depends, up to you, right? It can be harder to exit if you live near a graveyard. But that's a good example. If you want the highest cash flow, what are we thinking? And it's Fabian. Which ones? C, okay, I would do C or D. If you want the highest cash flow and you don't care about vacancy, I would put you in a D area because you're gonna get better returns. Now look at that. Most people, instead of just looking at a legally suited house and being like, hey, I like it because the curb appeal is good, it's already rented, but then they don't realize what the investment's actually giving you. Location is the key, and it always starts with the location. Can you change the location? No, you can't, but you can change everything else with the property. So always start with a map like this. You can use this for any single city out there. It'll help provide clarity. I'll send you guys the link. We have an updated version on our website. If you guys go to www.calvinrealty.ca to the investor section, you can click on any area, and we went through a detailed description of exactly what the vacancy is, tenant profile, cash flow opportunities, and a description all through the investor lens. So if you want to see this is like the 1.0 version. We skipped to like the 12.0 version. You should totally see it now. It's fantastic.
I have just one question.
Yeah.
Does the transportation, the train transportation matters more in the property where you buy, where there is bus stops closer to like a 5 minutes walk? Does that matter in all these
Transportation definitely matters. Yeah, transportation. I mean, that's just a way that you can get your property rented before another person. Yeah, yeah. I got a fast track. I'm getting flagged here. Okay. I'm not going to go through pre-construction opportunities. Here, this is what I'm going to do is, so with these events, some of the best value that I've ever had coming to an event like this is the relationships that you build. So I'm going to see if I can make some intentional relationships here, intentional networking, okay? So let's start with, Shirley, can I use you again? Because you've been so great. What are you looking for?
I'm looking for property that I could make an investment in that I'm going to get a return back on it with as little investment as possible.
Okay.
I'd rather put sweat labor into it than.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. Do you need a mortgage broker or someone that's going to help you with favorable financing?
Not at this point.
Okay. Any professional partners? You need like a contractor, or do you need a wholesaler that might be able to help you find some of these deals?
Perhaps.
Okay. Can we have the wholesaler stand up? Okay. Can you airdrop your contact to Shirley? So now you have 3 wholesalers in the room that can. You guys do Red Deer, right? Red Deer. Debbie, you do Red Deer. There you go. You have 3 contacts that you now have. Now, can you guys stay standing? How many other people in here could use the deals from a wholesaler? How many of you want to see more deals? Good. Airdrop your contact. And then all of a sudden you'll start to, I should probably have it on my screen of how to do it. It's better. Anyways, these are the contacts you want to have, right? What's something else that we're looking for? Amanda, what are you looking for? Anything?
Yeah, I'm looking for a joint venture partner.
Joint venture partner? You can find those deals. And are you looking for a capital partner? Or are you looking for a working partner?
Capital partner.
Capital partner? Okay. So believe it or not, it is harder to find capital partners, but I can tell you it is stressful to have a lot of money in your bank account that's not doing anything. Is there anybody in that situation right now that has money sitting in their account but not really 100% clarity of what to do with it? Anybody? Can you stand up? Amanda, can you look around? Now, I feel like you guys and the wholesalers are going to be the busiest people in the room.
Actually, I don't have money in the account, but I have a lot of equity on my house.
Fantastic. I mean, so that works as well. I think that's great. Yeah. So I mean, that's how easy it is to be able to get set up with the right people, right? And so Amanda, now you have 4 contacts, and you guys also have 3 wholesalers. And I didn't know what a wholesaler was until 5 years into my real estate investing. It took me 5 years to know what a wholesaler was. I also didn't go to any events, didn't read any books, didn't have any family, or anything along those lines. So that was that beneficial? Was that helpful? A little bit? Amanda, did that help? You got a couple of contacts there? Awesome. Everybody else, did you learn something? Did you get something out of today? Okay. Well, if it was...
Having one last question, because I wanted to ask you, as you guys said, like Red Deer, we are making like a lot of rental properties, everything. But if you look close to Red Deer, it's mostly all farming community. So I want to ask a question: from where when you are giving the guys coming to rent the house like that, so what's the economy driving for Red Deer?
We should ask Bryce.
Because I was looking for a long time, almost 2 years, to invest in Red Deer, but I always felt like it's just so.
So Bryce is actually going to be speaking at the end here. So he'll be able to answer some of your questions. And then we're also going to network, just like how you showed us how to, which I think will be great. So if you have those asks, I think this is a great opportunity to be bold and say like, hey, this is what I'm looking for. How can I get these answers? So whether it's a question that you might have or an ask that you have to grow your portfolio, I think that's a great tip. So thank you so much for sharing that, Calvin.
Awesome. I'm off. That's my clue to get off stage. Thank you guys so much.
Yes, it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to that event.
So we're going to have a Q&A afterwards, and we're going to bring Calvin back up, and then we can text Andrew all the questions, and then we'll filter it through.
Yes. So if you have my number, you can already start sending them. If not, wait, and the number will magically appear on the screen for us. It's going to be incredible.
The walkability score that he was talking about, that was clever, because you go there and he's like, oh, what's my walkability score? Never thought about that being a potentially bad thing for people walking by. Like we've got one area in town that's like, okay, we know there's lots of traffic there, but that was really good, Calvin. I learned lots.
Very well.
And now we're going to go to a more elusive side of the real estate world. We're going to talk about foreclosures. So we're going to bring up Hazen, and he's going to come and do an interview.
Excellent. Give it up for Hazen. Okay. Do you got enough room on the mic?
I think we do.
Excellent. Okay, well, I am looking forward to this because first off, I get to live a dream of mine of pretending to be Jimmy Fallon. So this is a great element, but I'm really looking forward to learning more about foreclosures. It might be a bit elusive. We're sitting inside a bank and we're talking about foreclosures. So if you have more questions about that side of things, we could take that offline afterwards and discuss that. But I really want to learn more about you, Hazen. Some of your background in this. I think that when people think of foreclosures, it seems like this scary concept. So what are some of the things that have initially drew you to this niche?
You bet. So years ago, I used to work as a commercial flooring salesperson here. I specialized in multifamily and hospitality. So working alongside investors here, people that flip properties here, otherwise got them back in the markets. Got kind of a first-hand view to that, and from there, it kind of grew into the roles here, worked at different law firms, different banks, appraisers and whatnot. And now I've kind of got a couple properties of my own here that we work with a couple investors on. And now, of course, I'm basically bank's hired goon. If you don't pay your bills, I'm the guy that takes it away. So we deal with them, we deal with the side you don't typically see, the court side and what happens after default.
Yeah, when we were messaging back and forth, Hazen's like, should I bring my bulletproof vest tonight to show them like that side? And I'm like, maybe don't bring the bulletproof vest to a bank. I don't know. But what's been some of the more unexpected or memorable moments that you've had in this journey?
You know, I think one of the more interesting ones was being in an 18-unit apartment building up in Edmonton, finding live chickens in 2 of the units. That was quite a surprise, but you see it all. There's been all sorts of different things. We had one here where this is actually a really positive story here up in Edmonton, 118th Avenue area. I'm not sure how many of you guys know about that area. It can be quite rough to invest in. There was one individual there. He bought 4 properties in total. They were very much derelict. He worked with a couple of different developers here, as well as a couple of support agencies to get people in there to help renovate the properties here, fix them up. He actually traded part of their wages here for their damage deposits first 2 months' rent, which really helped them get back on their feet, get back into a property and be a bit more stable. It was a really cool turnaround for those properties.
That's very cool. It's always great to see those stories where you can make that turnaround happen. With those chickens, were there any eggs?
You know, I didn't look for those, actually.
Okay. You gotta always look for Easter eggs. Outside of intense world of foreclosures, what do you do just personally just to take some time off? I think that's something that like Amanda and I were talking about back there of like this world can be very busy and intense, and it's good to find those moments of reprieve. So what do you do personally?
So one, I'm an amateur photographer, very much amateur. I can show you that if you like. It's terrible. But anyways, aside from that, I do a lot of volunteering here, and I support Wild North Animal Rescue in Edmonton whenever I have a chance. It's something that's very close to me and my wife, so that's what I try to do here whenever I have a bit of free time, and that a little bit of traveling here around the province as always.
Excellent. So what does a typical day in the life look like for someone that's taking over a property for a bank, and what are the key steps involved when the property goes into foreclosure from the bank's perspective?
Absolutely. So once a default happens, it sets off a chain reaction for sure of events that need to happen. So usually we'll get a notification from the bank. We'll start up with the demand, or the default, I should say, is this first step here. So we'll say, okay, what's going on? What happened here? From there, we'll reach out to the borrower, see what's going on, serve them the notice, do a property inspection, find out if they're actually there, if there's been any damage to it, kind of the initial things that need to happen. From there, once we have these initial assessments done, we'll go reach out to the lawyers, get them involved, obtain a redemption order or a foreclosure order if need be, secure the property, and then work with local realtors here and bankers to try and get the property sold again.
So it's a very methodical process throughout. You have your systems in place.
It's methodical chaos for sure.
Methodical chaos. That's a good way to put it. Because I'm sure that you're dealing with high emotions throughout that.
It can definitely be the worst day of someone's life. It's very high emotion sometimes. It can be very positive. We can work them to get it back on track potentially. Maybe finding a secondary lender or an investor here to maybe take on a private mortgage. There's definitely opportunities out there, and it can be positive in some cases.
Right. No, that makes sense. So what would be some of the bigger misconceptions that people might have about what the foreclosure process looks like?
A lot of people here think like down the States where you can go in, basically buy out the mortgage here, what's owing on it, or take over the payments. That's not true in Canada. The Civil Enforcement Act here in Alberta does not permit that. The person may still have equity in the property. We have to take that into account. What you can do is work with them here to maybe take over the payments, get them back on track, and refinance it. That's one thing that can happen, but it's just not like it is on TV or down the States here. We have a very different real estate system here in Canada.
Yeah, I imagine that you look like Dog the Bounty Hunter and you're breaking into someone's house and you're taking over it, but that's probably not what that looks like.
It's a little bit more discreet than that for sure.
No, that makes sense. And then what do you look for when you're finding these distressed properties or opportunities? Like for our audience, if they're looking at, okay, could an opportunity be in foreclosures or those distressed properties? What are some of the key things that you're looking for in that?
Can you clarify that question actually just a little bit there?
Yeah, so if you're looking at a property, what are certain red flags that come up right away? And then what are some of the green flags you're like, we should move forward on this?
Absolutely. Busted windows here. If you have a lot of issues on the outside of the property, overgrown grass, building envelope, of course, is a big one here that's often overlooked. Plumbing, those are things you really need to look into. If you do have one that's kind of at the foreclosure point, it's now been taken over by the bank, definitely take a chance to go through the property if you can. Really make sure you know what you're doing. And just keep an eye on those big structural things. The building envelope, flooring, plumbing, electrical, those are the things here that can really, really mess you up if you're not paying attention. Green flags here if you can, if it's been cleared out. You have a cooperative borrower or a banker that's willing to possibly even offer some additional terms here to make the property work. That's something to really look out for here and just try to build those relationships. The relationships are really the green flags there, is every property is different. They all have different concerns and just different things that could go wrong. Work with your bankers and your realtors, and that's really the best way to get a green flag out of a property.
Okay. So the red flags being high ticket items that's going to cost you a lot of money, green flags, relationships.
Absolutely. It's one of those things that the property itself is a property. You can't change that. You can make a bad situation better if you can work with your banker, your realtor, or whoever else at the property here. With a lot of these properties here and our climate, if, let's say, for example, my company comes in, the property's been damaged, we may not be able to winterize the property, and that can cause damage over the winter. So that's one thing to look out for. Definitely work with your realtors here to really get a good look at the property before making an offer.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. What advice would you give someone with limited experience that's looking to get involved in buying distressed properties?
Expect to get your hands dirty. These ones here, in order to make them work well in cash flow property, you're going to have to do some work yourself. One thing here too that some people may not take into account is the fact that we do have a drug epidemic in Canada. And what happens then is some of these properties, there may be issues with fentanyl or drugs or residue. I'm sure if you guys saw in the one video that Bryce put up, I'm in a Tyvek suit cleaning out a property there. It can be rough, so you need to be prepared for that. Be able to work with this here, either get the professionals to do this for you or take the training to do this safely and properly.
No, it makes sense. And I imagine that as you're going through, you're also managing these properties as well. And so what does that step look like? Because it could be similar to, say, if we have a tenant that isn't moving out or is giving rough situation. So what does that look like and how could we take that away for our own situations?
That's there. I might get you to clarify that one a little bit.
Yeah.
But for the management side of things here, once a property's been received by the bank, we have to check on at least once every week or two here, just to make sure that there's no major issues. Hopefully it hasn't caught on fire, although I'm sure some bankers would appreciate that in certain circumstances. But we'll go in there, make sure there's no floods, no fires, no one's broken back in, has reoccupied it. The best way, if you're taking over property here or you're renovating it during the foreclosure process, to really be proactive, go check on it or work with the neighbors to say, hey, I now own this here. Here's $50 here for helping me out. Just keep an eye on this here. If there's any issues, call me right away. Yeah. And that's the best way to keep kind of a handle of that and prevent your situation from potentially getting worse or being more difficult.
Yeah, and I think you kind of answered my second question there, of being proactive, of having that good communication, constantly going and checking in, paying a neighbor $50 to check in on your property if you have a bad tenant there or whatever it might be. Building those strong relationships, I think, could help with unfortunate tenants that someone might have.
Absolutely. Relationships are really a big part of this here, especially when you're doing any sort of distressed property resale or repair. If you don't have those relationships or the buy-in from the neighbors, you're going to have a lot harder time. If there's any sort of bylaw issue, they'll be calling bylaw immediately, which is going to make this 10 times more difficult for you while you're trying to get the property fixed up.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What are some of the common issues that you run? You know what? We're going to skip that one. You recently ventured into an exciting new area with your business where you are taking on businesses that are going into foreclosure. Can you unpack what that looks like and how we could possibly take advantage of that?
Absolutely. So in Canada, we're starting to follow a little bit more like the US here, where instead of going through the typical foreclosure process where companies like myself get involved and take over management for months and months on end, which can be tens of extra thousands of dollars for the banks to deal with, we're now seeing auctions come up for real estate. I've now recently obtained my auctioneer's license here. We are seeing more properties come up for auction, including businesses, and that is starting to become more common here in Alberta, for sure.
And so what is the website for your auction, and what are some of the things that we might find if we go on that website?
You bet. So my company is called Global Auction Group. The website is globalauctiongroup.ca. In the next couple of weeks, subject to court approval, we'll be selling a self-storage facility in Edmonton. It's about 30,000 square feet. We do have a couple multifamily homes coming up, as well as a couple single-family homes coming up here. We're just waiting for the court orders to come through.
And so what sort of opportunities, if someone's going onto your website, checking these things out, what the mindset should they have when thinking about taking one of these opportunities?
The biggest thing here too, so if you're having, let's say, for example, a foreclosed property, it's best to have a clear, concise offer, a cash offer, unconditional. From a banker's standpoint or my standpoint, if I have to go and read through it here and kind of understand your offer, then try to repitch to the bank, it can create some challenges. There's a reason why I'm not in sales anymore. But the biggest thing here, come with a clear offer. You might even get a bit of a discount that way by coming into the cash offer unconditional. And that's, even with auctions here, there's ways to get discounts on that, or just get a fast sale. It's good for the bank, it's good for the borrower, and it just tends to move things along a lot faster here.
No, I appreciate that. And just to give us one last piece of wisdom, what do you are forecast to see in this next coming year?
Right now, we are seeing still a little bit of an uptick here in residential foreclosures. This is going to be a bit of a ripple. It may go up and down for a little while, but it is expected to trend upwards here for at least the next 18 months.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Hazen. It was a pleasure getting
Thanks for having
to
me.
chat with you. Everyone, give it up to Hazen. This is a positive reaction. Sometimes he's walking into situations where people are not very positive, so we want to make sure that he's feeling the love here. But we have... There's his picture. Next, we have our good friend, Bryce Kander, coming to the stage. Now, I wanted to share something that he's probably going to be too modest to share about himself, but Bryce has actually been nominated in the top 3 for Business of the Year awards, which is a huge accomplishment. So give it up to Bryce. Bryce, along with all the work that he's been doing with the Central Alberta Real Estate Investor Network. And so that's going to be taking place in October. And I am crossing my fingers that Bryce is going to take home that golden trophy or whatever it looks like. I think it's going to be incredible.
Well, it's also partly due to you too, because like you set up all of this and organize it, so it's a win for you too. If we get it.
Bryce, stop. But with all that said, I want to give the floor to Bryce, and let's hear some great wisdom from you.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming. This has been great so far. Can you give a round of applause for our previous speakers? So I'm going to be talking about how to underwrite a deal. What is underwriting? Underwriting is figuring out, is it a deal? So this property, so the first thing, once you find a deal, then we need to analyze it. So this deal was brought to me by Carl Wilson, who is a private builder, and he's been working on getting this deal for over 2 years. The building has been vacant for 7 years. So you can imagine the damages that are in there. It needs a lot of work. We're buying it for $2,075,000. After we're done our repairs, it's worth $4 million. So then you need to figure out, how much is the property going to be worth after you do your repairs? So that's called your after repair value. The acronym is ARV. So with apartment buildings, the value is based on how much income you bring in. I like using very conservative numbers called the 1% rule. If it brings in $100,000 worth of rental income, it's worth $1 million. If it brings in $200,000 worth of rental income, it is worth $2 million. Then we got to figure out, well, how much is it actually going to rent for? So that's called a comparative market analysis. We're going to go to Facebook, and we're going to look at what similar properties in the area are renting for. So this one is listed by the Realty Store, which is a local property management company, so you know that they're not getting top dollar, but they're getting strong dollar for it. So it's a good number to use. This is in the same town. It has original kitchens. So ours is going to be fully renovated. But an original kitchen is currently being rented for $1,250 for rent. Then they're charging $150 for utilities. And they're charging, if you want to park on the property, $45 for parking, for a total rent of $1,440. So when I use my numbers, I always want to use conservative numbers, because then if you're making more money, you're not mad at me. So on this property, we're using our 2 bedrooms, same as the other one, fully renovated, $1,500 a month. So only $60 more. I would rent one that's $60 more, brand new. And then our 3 bedrooms, there's no 3 bedrooms available to use for comparables, so I just did $150 more. You're gonna get families, those are gonna get snapped up pretty quickly. So this building is going to have a gross rental income, a total rental income of $425,000. So using the 1% rule, how much is this building worth? Okay, there was a bunch of people, 4 million? Okay, here's a silver coin for you. Courtesy of Luke. You always want to use conservative numbers. So after we figure out what our property is going to bring in, we're then going to do a cash flow analysis for this. So if you want my cash flow analysis, just add me on Facebook afterwards, send me a message, and I'll send you my cash flow spreadsheet. But after I've punched in all the numbers, the property is going to make $42,000 a year. But the building's $4 million. Is that a good deal? So we got to go a little bit further. We got to figure out what our costs are. So we're buying it for $2,075,000. Because Carl's been working on this for over 2 years, he already has his quotes. Typically, you'd go in and you'd figure out, well, how much is this going to cost? You get your contractor to come out, like Daniel Thomas, and then he's going to come give you a quote for it. But our renovations are $925,000. And then you have holding costs. So you've got mortgage, taxes, property insurance, utilities, because they got to plug in the tools. Our holding costs for the year are $300,000. Then you have to pay for a lawyer to buy it. You have to get an appraisal. And on apartment buildings, you need an environmental phase 1 study, which is about $4,200. Total cost for that, $35,000. So we're going to be in this building for $3,335,000. Being in it for $3,335,000, using a conservative number of the 1% rule being worth $4 million, we figured out it was worth 4.2, but conservative numbers, $4 million. We're in it for 3.35. The building is worth $4 million. We have made over $600,000 by renovating the property. Then you have to, the next skill you need to learn is how to raise capital. So we're going to use something called the debt stack. We're going to go to the bank. We're going to get 75% from the bank. Then we need 25% for our down payment. Then we need to pay for our renovation costs and our holding costs. So I texted my banker. I said, hey, here's the property we're thinking about buying. Would you be willing to do a 75% loan-to-value mortgage on it? He said, yep. Then I texted my hard money lender. So hard money lenders are investors who like real estate, they understand real estate, they just don't want to do the work. So he's 14.5% interest. He's my backup. He said, yeah, we can do it. And then I had to raise money from investors. So I raised, in 10 days, $1.3 million for this deal. We're giving our investors 15% interest on their money annually, and they get up to half of the building. Because in the beginning, you have to give away a little bit more. Eventually, it'll just be 15% interest. Might keep the partners. Then you need to figure out, what is your exit plan? So our plan for this building is to keep it forever. We're going to refinance it into MLI Select, which is the best thing to happen to commercial real estate financing in literally the last 40 years. Because 40 years ago, we had a housing crisis. And so that's why all of our apartment buildings are 40 years old, is because the government's like, hey, here's a creative financing how to build apartment buildings. And now we're in the same situation. So MLI Select, you can buy an apartment building for 5% down. So what's 5% of 4 million? 200,000. But remember, we have created $665,000 worth of equity. So we're leaving $200,000 in the deal. When we refinance all of our money out, leaving $200,000 in, we will get a tax-free check for $465,000, which we then use to pay back our investors their 15% interest. And if there's money left over, which there will be, that money gets distributed between the partners. So the investors get 15%. So an example is, one of the investors, if they invest $300,000, they'll get $365,000 back. And they get to keep 9.15% of the building forever. But then you need an oh crap situation. What if it takes longer? Got more holding costs. Well, our insurance allows us to rent out the building as units become rentable. So there's a firewall in the middle of the building. We've got 5 units on this side, 5 units on this side. When we get to the firewall, we can rent out those units. 5 units being rented out is $7,500 a month in rental income. The whole top floor, $15,000. When I was talking to the investors, I did not use any rental income in the numbers. Always want to be conservative. We're going to make $318,000 just in rental income in the first year that I left out of the performance sheet. But I was also conservative on the purchase price, the after repair value, $4 million, potentially 4.2. It's actually possible to get the rent up to $500,000, which means the building is worth $5 million. So there's an upside potential on this property of $1,650,000. So you need to know how to find a deal, how to run the after repair value. You got to figure out how much it's going to rent for. You need to have your cash flow analysis, and then you need to figure out your costs, go raise the capital, have an exit plan, and have a worst case scenario. we're gonna now have the Q&A.
Thank you very much, Bryce. You went through that so smoothly. It's obvious that you've done this multiple times and times again. How many times do you think that you've done breakdowns like that?
I just read this one about 6 times in the mirror.
But you've been studying real estate for how long?
My mother, Penny Kander, helped me buy my first house when I was 13 years old. She's
13 years
crazy.
Yes. That's incredible. Well, we're going to jump into Q&A here shortly. So I have my phone number on the screen. If you can't read it, it's 587-447-3751. Again, that's 587-447-3751. Felt like an infomercial from the early 2000s saying that. But you can start texting in your questions. I'm going to steal this here from us, Bryce.
So Calvin and Hazen, if you guys want to join us.
Come on down. While we're waiting for questions to come in, I also want to encourage you that you can send message to any of these individuals. They want to help. Like that's a big part of the reason why they are here. So I want to encourage you, check out their websites, to follow them on social media. If you took any pictures of them, make sure you tag them because that's a big thing that they want to make sure that they're helping you throughout. So first question that came in is how do you find foreclosures not on the auction website? Is there a website for auction foreclosures?
There is one kind of a general website you can check out too. It's called liveauctionworld.com. That's where a lot of the auctioneers here do check this out or list their stuff up. There is also a global auction guide. This is, again, another resource that's really good to check out. Option 2, reach out to either ATBs and the bankers here, Service Credit Union, Vision Credit Union, to name a few. They may know stuff that's coming up here beforehand as well.
And oftentimes when you're looking at the banks, just providing some additional context, we don't have those at the branches. So if you come and you ask one of the tellers, like, I want to know about your foreclosures, they are not going to know what you're talking about. So please don't do that. The best thing is to go back to what you're saying is building relationships. Oftentimes the banks have those chosen realtors that they want to partner and work with, and they have those deals accessible to them. And so it's all about building that relationship. Calvin, did you have a thought on that?
Yeah, so another thing you can do is talk to your realtor in Red Deer,
Yes.
an area, and he can scrub the MLS for seller names such as CMHC, bank, court, and then he can have that on an automatic search. So anything that ever gets triggered with any of those seller names, you'll automatically get emailed. So I would use that as an opportunity as well. Not a lot of people know that. It's a great tool.
Yeah, no, that's very good. Other question that came in is how are foreclosure prices determined?
These are determined by what is owing on the mortgage. So if, say, for example, there's $800,000 owing on, let's say, a multifamily property, the bank's going to try and realize on as close to that as possible, as well as their expenses. They will try to work with that there. It may go down a little bit if they're looking for a fast sale, but it's usually going to be as close as possible to what's actually owed on the mortgage.
Yep.
Example, for the 800,000 you said, right? So we have been so big, so can you give an example, like if it's 800K, how the banks are going to do like the closest like that?
So usually it's close to the post. So every bank is different in the way they handle this. Some companies use what's called FCT to handle some of the administration as well, and they may have their own internal processes, but they usually try to get as close to what's owed on the mortgage as possible, as an example, in most cases.
Sometimes suppose it's 800K and nobody's trying to get that foreclosure. So suppose you said I can go with 725 just as a assume. So do you, like will they think about that or they have a fixed price? Because sometimes they want to get the deal, get the cash.
And they will absolutely consider that in most cases, especially if it's a quick sale, no conditions. They'll absolutely take that into consideration when they're looking at selling the property.
Mm-hmm. Another question that came in is what is a wholesaler? So Calvin, do you want to talk about that?
Sure. A wholesaler is an unlicensed real estate agent.
Yeah.
Legally. Yeah, it's fully legal. And actually,
But there's like a slight edge to it. It's kind of like the bad boys of realty.
it's but they serve a very important purpose, and that's why at 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐿, I'm not just using it as a plug, but that's why we have like some of the top, wholesalers at 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐿 is because we want to bring light to wholesalers. Because do you guys remember COVID when there was like no toilet paper, and you guys were wishing like, oh, I wish I had a bidet from Amazon or more toilet paper? Wholesalers will help stock the shelves with more toilet paper. You're going to have more options. So it doesn't mean that every single deal that you receive is a good deal. You still want to analyze it like you would any other property, but it's more options, and it'll keep the stocks, the shelves stocked. And so a lot of times the wholesaler will have the property under assignment, and when you're purchasing the property, you should talk to one of the wholesalers here. There's 3 great ones, and either you're going to be pursuing like a double close or they're going to be assigning the contract. You should learn how that process looks like, because there's different ways to navigate it, but you definitely want to have a wholesaler in your Rolodex.
Oh, that's a really good question. I'll start this question off with Bryce, and we'll go down the gauntlet here. But what drives you to keep going? Like you said, you bought your first house at 13. You've partnered with your mom. Like, you're doing incredibly well. You're on the nomination for one of 3 people for Business of the Year. What drives you to keep going?
Well, one of my goals was actually to get to the point where, like, the ultimate goal of real estate is to become someone that people lends money to, because Robert Kiyosaki does not use his own money. So one of my goals was actually to get to the point where I can raise money and do deals, because it has to be a deal that they couldn't do without you. Otherwise, why would they need you?
Right. That's very good. Calvin, same question.
I would say it's most likely to fill a void that I feel like is in the real estate market right now, whether it's like the ability to get quality information without feeling sold. I think the ability to actually learn about real estate. Again, if you asked me by the age of 22 what a property manager was, I'd go cross-eyed. I would have no idea. And so it's just, being able to make the largest impact. And I think everybody gets fulfillment in different ways. I get fulfillment by providing some kind of impact, by improving someone's life. That's why I was in the fitness industry for 12 years beforehand, because I went into it genuinely trying to help people, and helping people, whether it was weight loss, whether it was building big muscles or some kind of athletic or just even just mobility goals. Now I've transitioned into real estate and helping people that way. And the, 𝐅𝐨𝐿 started because of that as well, is because we wanted to help a larger audience with no strings attached. Right? Which I think there's too many infomercial conferences out there. There's too many things that people are asking for the sale, where it's like, why don't you just provide great information like Bryce is doing here with you guys at ATB, and you guys got to walk away actually feeling good and with actionable items.
No, that's awesome. Thank you.
For me, I love learning and I love a challenge. With my line of work here, it can be quite difficult in these situations. It gives me a chance to help people as well here. We might be able to get them out of a bad situation, get them back on track, and help them get kind of back on the right side of things here. With that there, it's really cool to keep going, see what else can be out there, and just see what other opportunities are out there as well.
Yep. Excellent. Thank you very much. And then Bryce, we have people asking, where is this recording going to be? They see Dion in the back. He looks incredible, but where can we watch all the things that he's producing?
So once my editor gets it back to us, it'll be on Facebook, so you can share it with all of your friends.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, we are going to wrap up here, but we want to encourage you guys to take some time to network. I really love what Calvin did. I think of this philosophy of you have not because you ask not. And oftentimes you know what you want, but you're just afraid to ask for it or make it known. And this is that great environment and great room where you can make that ask. Also, Bryce has a promo code. If you are interested in going to 𝐅𝐿, you can use the promo code BRYCE10 and you'll get 10% off. So make sure to do that to save some money, because that's always nice to save a little bit of money.
Well, thank you for everyone for coming, and have a good night.
Yes.